meeting to order by President Gahim at 6 p.m. Roll call members, Mr. Obey,
Present.
Ms. Hall,
Present.
Ms. Watson,
Present.
Mr. Ferris, absent, Mr. Gahim,
Present.
Ms. Flanagan.
Present.
Alright, 6 ayes, 1 absent, we have quorum, acceptance of agenda, resolution number 1, can I get a motion? Motion by Ms.
Second.
Hall, second by Mr. Obey. Resolved that the Board of Education accepts and approves the agenda with any additions or deletions, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Alright, 6 ayes, 1 absent, motion carries. Board calendar update, January 14, 2026 at 6 p.m. is our organization meeting and regular meeting. So that's that for the update. So we will now go to audience participation for any items pertaining to the agenda. Do we have any?
No agenda.
Okay, perfect. We will now go to reports to the board. We have Andrew Malinsky, Deputy Chief. You can come on up, please.
He's doing his own presentation. You just pull it toward you. You just pull it toward you.
You guys hear me? First and foremost, I'd like to thank you guys for allowing me here. Thanks to the superintendent, school board. Brought me here because we had talked. I just wanted to introduce myself. My name is Andrew Molesky. Been a police officer in the city of Hamtramck for 24 years, so I'm old, but a long time. It's a great city. Ever since I've been here, I always have pushed and wondered why we don't have a school resource officer here. Because I grew up, with school resource officer, I thought it was a very positive thing. So to me, I'm very excited that, we're working in that direction. So just a little bit of a backstory. So I appreciate that. We're still in work in progress. Hopefully I can, give a little bit of a brief topic of it and answer any questions you guys have. So, again, we had talked with the superintendent and got brought up, and they had talked about hopefully bringing on 2 school resource officers, a male and a female, which I think is excellent. Get both sides of the, female population and male population. So that portion of it, and then the myth that brought to a lot of people is that we're going to go in there and we're going to arrest kids, we're going to do all that. And I just wanted to dispel that the ideal school resource officer would never use his cuffs, right? Need WD-40 2 years later, right? Because you don't want to do that. But you also have to be there for safety. Safety's got to be the number 1 priority. So we're there for safety, but then on top of that, we are there to make interactions with the kids, build that trust with the community and the police. And I always say you'd rather be proactive than reactive. So a lot of times that you have build that trust, the student may come to the school resource officer and say, hey, so-and-so has a gun, or so-and-so is planning a fight, or, how many times did I get the call in the middle of the night, hey, there's a school threat, right? But now you have a school resource officer that's on top of it that can start the process and get everything going to that portion of it, and I always say if you can make a difference to 1 kid out of 100, then, you did your job at that point, right? You can prevent something as small as, we talked about vaping, right? It's a huge problem everywhere, but it shows how old I am. We had the old dare, crack the egg, you're right on drugs. I mean, that's what I remember, but if you can get to a couple of those kids and stop it before it gets that, then we're doing our job as a community, as police, as the school district. So, we work hand in hand with the school district, obviously the school board and the superintendents. That's basically we're working as a partnership. So, they obviously are going to report to the police command staff, but then they're going to report to the superintendent. And we'll have that's all stuff that's going to be worked out about what they're doing. We're not planning on getting involved in school disciplinary action. That's what we're not there for, right? You guys handle the school stuff, and we would handle anything, Hopefully it's not at that end, but obviously the threats, the criminal work, talking to students, whatever you need, whatever they need. Say, hey, the kindergartners want you to, read to the kids. We'd be there for that. Do a presentation on drugs, presentation on fighting, whatever it may be. Talk about cyberbullying. There's a lot of stuff that we can get a hold of these kids that maybe prevent the issues before they occur that we are having to show up. I always said, especially when I was on the road, I'd show up. And it's different when we're showing up there because you guys are calling. That we'd almost have to arrest somebody because they're calling. But if you have that officer there to interact before it gets to that point, you can avoid putting a kid in the system for something that we all did, right? A simple fight, you might be able to break it up and school and handle what they need to handle. Because once we show up on the road, now you have people, oh, you assaulted me, you did this, and then next thing you know, somebody has to go to jail, and the officers don't really have a choice. So we're trying to prevent that and get ahead of everything. So there's just a lot of positive things I can think of, just to go over some, and I would love to answer any questions from the board.
Before you ask questions, really, I want to thank Andy because throughout everything that's been going on, he's always been a person that I can call and we call each other. We talk. He always responds. Always been very helpful. We've been talking about this since last January. Board President Algahan, myself, and others have been meeting with Andy from the city. We were, from a district standpoint, we were waiting for funding for the School Aid Act, and as you know, the School Aid Act was passed in early October. Otherwise, we would have probably had Andy here back in June. We would have known what our grant funding was, how we could afford it. And a major piece of legislation that the district has to have what they call BTAM teams, or behavioral threat assessment teams, at each building, which part of the funding provides for SRO. And we also have to have the cooperation of the police force. Police force works with the district to create that plan. So they really become a major part of that plan, cooperation with the district. All this has to be in place before October 1 of 2026. So, we started, actually, a year and a half ahead of time because, this law has been out there for 2 years. So we've been talking. The funding is there now. We have it in either 31AA, which I'll talk to you about later, or we can also find it in some other grants, like at-risk grants. So with that just sort of brings a little history. Just, again, want to thank Andy for being the constant at the city, the person that we could always go to and get instant, action response. So with that, I don't know if you have any questions for Deputy Chief Molesky.
No, the only thing that you didn't mention is, I was hoping you mentioned it, you're trying to get us a multilingual resource officer.
Yes, I mean, that would be ideal, and we talked about that. Obviously, that would be ideal, but we got to see who applies, and we, nice on that. Just because somebody's multilingual, we want to make sure it's the right person, especially a new cooperation. Right. So, and I did think that part of what we talked about is we'd have somebody from the school board, somebody from the school, the police department. We'd all do the interviews together, and we'd come up with collaboration because I know the police end, and so I think we would work together to. Yes, obviously that's a plus to start off, right? And we definitely would love that. And so I think working together, we'd pick the right person.
And it will be a person that's already working at the department, right? No one new.
No, correct. We would be an interdepartmental special assignment, we'd call it, and we'd post it. They would apply the resume type thing, and we do interviews and come up with the obviously. Especially, you always want the best candidate, but especially something new, right? It would be the worst case scenario. You get somebody in there doesn't get along with school or does something that you want to put the best report. Obviously, for the kids, that's what you're there for, right? So, but yes, it would be vetted that way, and we would discuss to make sure that everybody's on board of what we have, and a little bit what we talked about. He brought it up, like Alice, right? I think it's very important. We would send our officers to train the trainer and Alice, and then when we have all these drills, they would be there to, lead the training. Obviously, the school district involved, but the leading, and then the police end has a lot more information because we do it, but we show up on the drills. But now we would train us and say, hey, all right, we're going to use the schools more often and do stuff like that. Extracurricular activities, they'd be a big part of that. Be a part of their assignment, to be there for football games, sporting events, whatever you guys need. We would work together between the district and the police department to be there for the kids.
Thank you for your support. Any other questions?
So the goal would be to start from the beginning of the new year, like to have that.
No, we're still going to talk with council to see if they can, work with us half and half.
In regards to what, like funding?
Yeah.
Well, and some of it, as Andy alluded to, is there's certain training that takes place. You don't just take an officer, interview and put them in school, because it's really learning how to be an SRO.
It'll be a different setting.
It is, and it's becomes more of, working with the students, working with the staff. It's not, as he pointed out, you're not there to be a police officer to arrest people. You're there to, really help people understand that police officers are a valuable part of the community. They're not somebody to be afraid of, or, somebody that you can work with, and it helps all of our students out, I believe, because, when they graduate, like our SRO might see somebody and say, oh, I know this kid, he's a good kid, all that type of stuff. So,
100%. God forbid, never want to say it, but it happens every, just had one at Ground Eaters. You have somebody boots on the ground right there also to respond to that. They're going to be trained to that, like I said. You don't want to talk about it, but it's the reality of it. So the safety portion is there, right? We're not, you have somebody right there to, you're acting before you even get the call, they're in action, right? So, which is, you don't want to talk about it, but it's here, and that's a priority for the police and obviously for the school board and the students, so.
Thanks, Debbie.
So what, when you're doing training for new officers, how long do you anticipate that takes once you select someone?
Well, I think we could have the interview process and have the selection before, but then there is I don't know exactly what it's called, but we had talked about it. It is, and they're all over the country. I don't know if there's one in Michigan. We had to send somebody to a different state. I think it's a 2-week class that it's, nationally, that's a class for school resource officers that they would go through. So we put them through that, so they have that training. And then it would be a lot of the administrative stuff, right? Like, we've worked on some policy procedures, but obviously the board would have to review everything, and ours would, and we just make sure that, okay, tweaks that we'd have to make to understand where they're reporting at different hours and stuff like that. So we work together to have, basically a go by here's how we're gonna do it. So I think once we made the decision, it would go fairly quick if we could get that class, because they offered a lot, but it may be, so it's a process of working together with the board, school, and getting somebody there.
So will you have alternates as well? So you'll have an SRO, what you're saying, like a male and a female, so you have like maybe alternates trained or?
No, because to send people to the training, I guess that would be the goal, is that once they're permanently assigned there, and they would be assigned through any type of school, and then in the summer, when the school is not in district, then they would come back and help the detectives or whatever they need be. So it would be basically the ones they've been through the training, where as long as they're working out, and that's something we talked about. We could sign somebody up tomorrow, but then the superintendent's like, hey, it's just not a good fit. Maybe he's the kid. Okay, we pull him up. We're signing that contract, but it's got to work for both ends, right? You got to make sure there's checks and balances both ways, and we want to make sure it's a positive impact for the community and the kids.
Thank you.
Thanks. Thanks, Andrew.
Yeah.
All set.
Okay, appreciate it. Thank you guys again for having me.
Alright.
Appreciate it.
Next up, we got Dr. Cobb, Special Services Department update.
Take this extra big, get it tonight.
Good evening, I'm Dr. Cobb, the Director of Special Services, and I have one of our nurses, Nurse Mohammed, with us, who will share we're just gonna share some exciting things and things that are happening in the Special Services Department. All right, so some highlights. I have changed my schedule to be present in a different building each morning. I just felt like that was necessary because prior to me doing this, when I go into the building, everybody just spazzes out. Like, oh my gosh, she's here and somebody's in trouble. And I didn't want that to be the feeling. So I just dedicated different days that I'm in different buildings so that I can be a more familiar face more often. We also have developed a monthly newsletter that we send out. It's really special services driven, but it goes to all staff. Because there are a lot of different things within it that would be helpful in any setting. The compliance managers and our behavior specialists are now more present in the buildings daily, not just when called. So they too are more of a familiar face, and everyone in the buildings are getting to know who they are and what their roles are. We had an outstanding corrective action plan, which has been verified and closed out by MDE, which is a great thing. We are continuing to build positive relationships with families. I know well, some of you may be aware that when I started a couple of years ago, the special services department was just in shambles. And so there were a lot of family complaints, a lot of just hesitation and just not feeling of goodness. And I have really strived to create a team and build relationships with families and students so that we are just making a shift in the department. We have 2 new district nurses, Nurse Denise being one of them, and they split 4 buildings, but they share, collectively in the event that there's a need somewhere that one can't get to. And then we also have nurse para aides in most buildings to support when the nurse is unable. So they have trained them to handle and learn the day-to-day nuances of each building that they are assigned to so that they can support as needed. I wanted to address just some concerns that have been one of the superintendent and coffees. Parents came with some concerns regarding their belief of high-need students without support. Their belief that students are placed in classrooms without help. They believe that it's unfair to students and teachers, and they also believe that there was a lack of field trips. Now, the lack of field trips wasn't a special education issue, but I did add it because that is one of the things that I have changed, at least with regards to the special education department. And just making sure that some of our students who are not immersed with their gen ed peers are getting to get out of the district and have those experiences as well. Some of the staff concerns that we hear quite often is they believe that they can tell that students require special education and don't understand why students are sitting in gen ed spaces. They believe that students need paras and are not getting them. And they believe that they don't know how to support students with IEPs. And then from the special ed admin team, what we see is that gen ed teachers don't necessarily engage with special education students, which might relate to the one above where teachers are saying, I don't know how to support this student, and so it's easier to put them on a laptop and kind of be hands-off. We are also seeing that special education students are sitting in classes on computers all day, not being fully engaged. And then we also seeing that there's a painting of a negative narrative about the amount of support that is being provided. And so we'll go kind of into those. Just what everybody should know as I attempt to address the parents' concerns. So we understand that there are students who have behaviors in school and they come with very limited or prior experiences with education. So many students come, have never been away from families, have never been in a structured setting. And so we want them to come and follow the rules when they have never had to do this before. And it's frustrating to a teacher when I have to support 25 other kids or such, and I have this student or these students who are just not following my directions. So while we get that it's frustrating, there's still a process, and we have to recognize that all students are entitled to the experience of being immersed with their gen ed peers and being exposed to the gen ed curriculum. Some of the things that while we are going through that process, there's MTSS, which is multi-tiered systems of support, where we are tracking data and we're seeing if there are any trends, and we come together and talk about whatever the need is for that student. We put some interventions in place and we come back together and kind of talk about it again to determine our next steps. We also look at some targeted behavior strategies, classroom routines, and then we provide consistent conversation with the families in trying to support the student. We have to document these strategies so that we can have the data to track. And then we do work to ensure that the supports are aligned with whatever documentation we're saying we needed if we are moving in the trajectory of possibly an evaluation. And then we also have to make sure that we review staffing allocations just to make sure that there is enough adult support to support the students and their needs. Identification for special education, we do have to follow state and federal guidelines, which that part some teachers and parents just don't understand. And while it looks like or may feel like we're not moving fast enough, we do have to follow a process, and we are not allowed to place them in a self-contained classroom, which is what many parents and teachers try and ask for us to do. So we do strongly encourage that, they listen and they participate in the conversations, and that as we are providing strategies and interventions, that they come with a growth mindset, and that they are open and willing and opting in to try those things. And some of the things that we have to show are student responded. We have to show, what some of the environmental factors may be having whatever issue they're having. And then when data supports it, then we move forward. Students with IEPs receiving additional support. This was one of the parent finds. So what we as a district have a stance of, there was a conversation around whether students with IEPs should also receive additional support from a reading interventionist. So the district stance is that regardless of who you are, regardless of if you have an IEP or not, all students are subject to the support. And if it comes to a student who has an IEP needing additional support, then the resource room teacher and the interventionist will get together to determine kind of what that support looks like. Addressing the staff and admin concerns, we hear and acknowledge all of the concerns, and we do not take them lightly. We recognize that yes, the student may have a behavior, and yes, we are providing strategies, but it's not an overnight thing, and we do have to show that we are continuously attempting to try to support. We regularly review the student data. We provide access to the special education team for coaching. We ensure that the case managers collaborate with the gen ed staff. We look at the accommodations, the behavior plans, the classroom strategies. No teacher is ever expected to navigate this alone, but we do have to often remind them to, be open about the interventions that we're asking. Because what we have been faced with sometimes is no matter what we offer, that doesn't work. This is what they say, that doesn't work without even trying. So we often do have to have the conversation of try it and let us know how it goes. And we come in, we model, we come in, we have the conversations, and we try to do some real-time coaching so that they can see it in the moment and how it works. And then observations consisted of a time frame of a minimum of 45 to 60 minutes, so that no time. We come and we spend some extensive time when we're doing observations so that we can actually have some information to provide. There is a required process, as we talked about, when assigning support with fidelity. The district is committed. We are committed to supporting students, families, and staff, and we will continue to monitor the needs as necessary. Special education paraprofessional support must be tied to the IEP eligibility, and it must show that there's a need. We also get that many parents, as well as many teachers, often say, well, the student needs a para. And what we've learned by going in observations is sometimes it's believed that the student needs a para because the teacher is just not willing to really dig in and support the student as needed. So we've been coaching and working through kind of just spending time and what that engagement looks like. All right, here's just one of our fun trips. We went to the Three Cedars Apple Orchard. We focused on the self-contained classrooms because any student who's in a gen ed space gets to go on field trips with their gen ed class and peers. And the self-contained classrooms don't always. So we took the district group of students to the Three Cedars farm, and they had a really good time. Also wanted to talk about when we return from break, we are introducing Parent University. because what we have found is that some of our parents just lack the knowledge. And so we will have once a month come together after school just to go, talk about some topics, let them ask questions. We do some trainings, a variety of topics that will be presented, and we will run it starting off from January to May. We recognize that probably in the beginning it won't be a large turnout, but as they come and get the experience and see and feel, we know that they will go home and just spread it in the community. And by the time June comes, everybody's going to be busting through the doors. But we're really excited about that. I have Wayne and Risa coming to do some in the district. We're doing some, and we will cover a variety of topics from pre-K all the way to high school, just as we see it's relating to the special education world and needs of our students. All right.
Good evening. I'm Denise Muhammad, and I'm one of the proud nurses of our district. And today I want to just tell you a little bit about what we're doing in our nursing department. So why school nurses matter. So we ensure student safety through health assessments and timely interventions. We manage chronic conditions such as asthma, diabetes, and allergies, provide emergency responses, and providers for continuum of care. So if the nurses, we work closely with the doctor so we can continue their care, because if they're in a hospital, if they're homesick, they're missing education. That we can do to make sure that our students get the care that they need so they can continue their education, which is vital. We reduce student absence and help maintain a safe, healthy school and ensure consistent, safe student care. All right, so now health office visits. Now this right here, this is these numbers are from October and November. I came in October and we did them up until the last of November. So these are all the visits we have from students. Asthma, respiratory concerns, 51 visits. Headache, stomachache, 120 visits. Injuries on the playground, 100 visits, which should be higher. Medication administration, that's 194. Those are the medications that the doctors are prescribing. The PRN, those are medications as needed, 20 visits. Diabetes management, 16 students in our district that have diabetes. That's a very high number, and it's raising. I mean, it's getting higher. Sore throats, colds, flu, 50 visits, and seizures, 10 visits. So as you see, there's a definite need. And like I said, this is just from October to November. So having the nurses and the health pairs is pretty vital in our district. All right, so impact of school nursing, a referral that changed a life story. So now this right here is a success story, and this is one of my students. So one of our 4th grade students at Dickerson West, she came. She had been down 20 times from October the 14th, getting her inhaler. She struggled daily with uncontrolled asthma and only had an emergency inhaler, which was not enough to keep her symptoms stable. So what I did, I talked to the principal. So I had a referral from another district that I worked. I called Healthy Kids Connection. And they give free asthma support to Wayne County residents. So Hamtramck is in Wayne County, so guess what? We're going to use this referral for our students. So what they did, they sent out a respiratory therapist to her home. They gave them a free nebulizer. They gave her free daily controlled medication, and she gets ongoing asthma treatment and education. Mom told me that they came and took in that she's allergic to. They're putting up glass shower doors. They're taking the carpet up. They're going to resources and things that they do. And this is just one resource. And so the transformation from this student, now she comes to the nurse, to our office with hugs and smiles. And breathe now, because she was miserable. And if you ever seen someone have an asthma attack, you know, it's a doom, it's doom and an impending feeling. So she's happy, she's not missing school, and I mean, she has just really lightened up. She's very vibrant, and now she's paying attention in her classes. So this story reflects the power of compassion. Through our collaboration with Healthy Kid Connections, we're committed to ensuring all Hamtramck families have access to resources. So this that we're bringing, I do want to say that even though it was a challenge between the union, but to bring in coats, I went to my sorority sisters and I got them 25 pairs of gloves. So these are things, because it takes a village, it takes all of us to help raise our children. So in the nursing department, we're not just fixing up boo-boos, but we go outside of that. You know, and it's my obligation to make sure that every child has a safe, stable home environment and a nurturing environment when they come to school. So, all right, and this is Lisa. That's she had a family obligation. She had an emergency, and this is my contact. And these are the schools. Lisa's at Taubeda, Hamtramck, Holbrook, and Horizon, and I'm at ECE, Dickerson East, West, and that's it.
Thank you. All right, thank you both for coming. Wonderful. We do feel a difference, so thank you.
Get the mask.
All right, next up we have Nate.
I think we have Dr. Weeks.
Settle, okay, I guess anyone.
Oh, no. This was from last week. He wasn't going to be here, but he is here today.
Okay, so I think it's their setting. So yeah, go up there. We do.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Nate Talbot. I am the District Data Assessment State and Federal Funding Specialist. And with me is Dr. Weeks, our Director of the State. On behalf of the Office of Student Achievement, Executive Director Heather Kuhn. We're here to present our annual Title I parent meeting information for the district. I will let Dr. Weeks sort of kick us off, and we'll sort of bounce back and forth.
Good evening, good evening. So the purpose of our meeting is to discuss our Title I obligations and what it means to be a Title I school community. Within every academic school year, we are responsible for conducting an annual parent meeting. So this is each of our respective schools. Within the framework of those parent, we talk and discuss with our parents our parent involvement policy as well as our parent school compact. Parents in the school in terms of what we're going to do to collaborate with each other to ensure that students have equitable access to curriculum. So tonight we're going to talk a little bit about Title. Talk about some of the curriculum that we have implemented this academic school year. The director of that program, Sean Shackelford, could not be here this evening, so we're going to do that in his absence. And then also we're going to talk about some important documents and what we believe are the keys to every child's success within the Hamtramck Public Schools. So what is Title I? Or is that every student that qualifies for free and reduced lunch or falls within the socioeconomic status receives federal funding. The vast and as a result, we receive quite a bit of Title I funds. I'm going to talk a little bit more specifically about what we received during this academic school year. You may ask yourself, how does Title I work? Title I funding flows from the United States Department of Education down to the Michigan Department of Education, and then MDE allocates funds to every school community within the state of Michigan that qualifies for Title I funds. Title I funding to those schools based upon the number of children from low-income families, as I indicated. Title I schools spend the funds allocated based upon a formula that aligns to our MyKit plan. You may have heard us talk about the Michigan Continuous School. Sure that what we do academically within the school community aligns to a framework, and that those funds are spent directly toward things that are beneficial for the students. And typically we have two frameworks for how we designate supports for students, either school-wide, which means everyone within that building qualifies for Title I, or targeted assistance. Sometimes you might have certain buildings that may have a certain percentage. As a result, in those type of situations, we direct funds directly toward those students. Title I funds provide supplemental support. Supplemental support typically is additional personnel to support our students. In our district, we deploy a lot of funds toward academic interventionists, such as our math interventionists, our reading interventionists, or our behavioral interventionists. So those are additional supports that go above and beyond the general education curriculum. You may also see additional classroom materials or certain equipment, technology in the classroom, supplemental curriculum that is added in addition to our standard curriculum, small group interventions. We do a lot of pull-out, we do a lot of individual programs, and then after-school tutoring. We are fortunate to have a robust after-school tutoring program, and then that provides students who qualify for Title I with summer school. Title I funds also provide parent-family engagement activities and training. Who decides how funds are used? It's not a complicated process. Typically, that process entails our MyKIP team, which is our district improvement team, and various stakeholders. Those stakeholders are teachers, administrators, paraprofessionals, parents, and you. So it's a collection of individuals that come together as a team to determine how we spend those funds. So it's not arbitrarily done. It's not done by an individual. It's a collective effort to ensure that those funds are balanced and equitably distributed to each of our buildings. So how much did we get this year? We received a robust $7 million, over $7 million in Title I funds. And because we received over $500,000 in Title I funds, we must allocate at least 1% toward parent engagement. That parent engagement roughly constitutes about $60,000 that goes to each of our buildings, and then we equitably distribute that money to each of our schools where they have our parent engagement meetings. We use Title I Part A funds to pay for the following staff and supports that I've referenced before: school-wide programs, field trips, curricular resources, academic programming, and also targeted assistance programs, mentoring and after-school programming, and things like that. So we're very fortunate to be in a school community that we have the additional funding support to support our kids, and Jim is going to like this, at no expense to the general fund.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. All right. But think of it like this. Essentially, it is our district improvement process. So MyKIP is a big acronym. Essentially, it's our district improvement process. We have 3 goals that we identify each year to ensure that we're progressively moving in a direction where we are improving the quality of the educational experience of our students. We have an ELA goal, a language arts goal, a math goal, and a culture and climate goal. The numbers that you see on the screen are not our personal numbers. These are numbers that the state of Michigan has determined that they want every school community. Pertains to ELA, the state's benchmark is at least 56.31% of kids will be proficient in language arts. That is based upon their barometer, right? So that's based upon a collection of all the students in the state of Michigan, and they take the average of that. So that 56.31% is the average percentage of kids who are proficient in ELA. Our goal is to meet that target, and the designated date is 2028. We recognize that a lot of work needs to happen for us to get to there. We are consistently and collectively working to reach that goal. And then each goal, we set a benchmark. So we want to make sure that each year we're moving toward an annual of 7% so that we can get to that point. In certain cases, when we don't get to that area, we adjust our goal accordingly. And then we look at what we're doing and we make certain adjustments to either instructional practices, interventions, and supports to ensure that kids are getting the best opportunity to actually meet that goal. 94%, and then for culture and climate, which is not necessarily a state target. It's one of the things that we set within ourselves. We utilize a survey called the Hanover research-based survey that looks at the quality of the experiences and that staff have. The data from that, we utilize that to make shifts within the framework of how we do school to ensure that when kids come to school, they feel safe, they feel respected, they feel valued, that they feel that the curriculum is meeting their needs. Same thing for our staff. We want to make sure that our staff are happy, that they feel respected, they feel a part of a greater community, and then our parents feel like they're supported and part of this decision-making process. You can find a copy of our Title I budget. This is all public information. It is located on our website. Again, through our transparency reporting, all the information that we receive regarding how our funds are received and spent are part of our transparency reporting. A copy of the school's Title I budget can also be located in the district office of each of the respective schools. So as I was talking about those goals are aligned to the standards that the state of Michigan has. We look at our ELA standards, so we have a standards within the state of Michigan, but also certain standards that cut across the entire United States of America, and as well as in mathematics and literacy and social studies. And then the standard benchmark that we utilize for science are next generation science standards. So that's why when you go into a classroom, regardless of which classroom you're in, which building, the curriculum is going to be the same. So if you are a 5th grade student in one building and you're learning science, there's no disparity between the curriculum that is being offered at one school in comparison to another. So regardless of where you are going to school at here in Hamtramck Public Schools, they're guaranteed viable curriculum.
So this is across the district. A lot of it is newly implemented. We spent about a year collecting some survey data, some information, some shareholder data in order to sort of find the best curriculum for our students. So for our elementary K-5, our students are using Reveal Math, which is a new adoption, which is standards aligned. For ELA, we're using Wonders, which is a fully comprehensive reading with robust phonics. UFLI, but when you hear people say UFLI, that's what they're referring to, which is our foundational literacy, and then mystery science for our phenomena-based science lessons and hands-on investigations. Our middle school uses Common Lit for ELA, Maneuvering the Middle for math, and iQuest for high school uses Envision Mathematics for grades 9-12, Readers Writers Workshop, and McGraw-Hill Social Studies, which crosses over into our middle school as well from 6 to 12. We have some district-wide programs. Students, some that are within a subgenre, such as our MLL learners or our special education. So we have Nat Geo, which is for our multilingual learners, Teach Town, which is our evidence-based for special education, iReady Pathways, which is an adaptive intervention that partially aligns with, you've probably heard us talk about iReady before, which is also our district benchmark assessment. And we have STEAM programs, Project Lead the Way, the PLTW, Learning Blade, and a few others, which are a lot of hands-on and other STEAM-related programs. That brings us to our state assessments. All of our objectives, and as Dr. Weeks was mentioning, our MyKIP goals are all aligned to state assessments. Those assessments are MSTEP, which covers English language arts, mathematics, science, and social studies. Not all students take these. They begin at grade 3, and they go up through grade 7 for most of them. Science and social studies also was for grade 8, grade 11, and a select a group of 12th graders who might not have taken it when they were in 11th grade. And then we have our College Board set of assessments, which they call it 8-9. There's one version for 8, and then there's another version targeted towards 9th grade. Then there's PSAT 10, and then our SAT for our 11th graders. All of those assessments there, with the exception of grade 9 and 10, are used for accountability. So when the state issues our index scores and our state scores for accountability, all except for grades 9 and 10 are included. But when they talk about growth for grade 11, they use the grade 9 and 10 PSAT as those measurements for growth so they can have a 3-year data point tracking. The next few slides gives you sort of a overview. I know it's really small and hard to see, so hopefully you guys all have a copy. Provide a sort of more high-res version to you if you need. Dr. Weeks mentioned earlier our ELA and math benchmark targets, which is what the state minimum is, and this sort of represents we're slightly below that, which is why for 2028 we have a target to at least be on par with what the state minimum expectations. So just as a color code, you'll see this amongst several of the graphs. Red, two or more grade levels below. Yellow is 1 grade level below. Green would be students who are on grade level. Blue would be students who are above grade level across the district. And then because it's hard to see, so the bars you're looking at here are 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th grade ELA scores. This would be your 8th grade, similar situation, but this would be your PSAT for 8th through 10th grade. Again, the red represents students who did not meet the projected proficiency. They're not likely to hit proficient if they took SAT today. Green are students who meet proficiency, and if they were to take SAT at their level today, they would likely hit proficient. And here's our actual SAT, which provides 3 ratings based on score, which is either proficient, partially proficient, or did. Yes.
For the previous slide, is there the proficiencies for as it goes up, it's going down?
Yeah. So, yeah, it is a great question. Michigan has reach reading proficiency by grade 3. One of the core reasons for that is we find students who can read on grade level proficient throughout their career with reading. Students who don't reach that, every year they're not proficient. They actually fall further and further behind because the challenges get harder and harder. And it's a similar situation you'll see for math. So yeah, seem like that proficiency's falling further behind, and may not have all the tools they need to become proficient in that. So we have to work even harder, which is where the purpose of this whole presentation is Title I funding. This is why we have the Title I funding, to provide and inject additional supports above and beyond the general supports to help drive that.
I add one thing to that as well. I think, Jim, you have a comment, Jim?
Go ahead, after you.
So sometimes when you look at academic data, it can be disparaging, right? But one of the things that we want to focus on, first and foremost, we recognize as a system of education that this is the framework that we've been provided to measure proficiency. This in no way is a reflection of how talented kids are. This in no way is a reflection of how gifted kids can be, even though their academic proficiency may not be at a certain standard. What we focus on is the joy of learning and how kids are growing while they're with us. A lot of our young people come to school and they have experienced a great deal of challenges even before they get to school. So our focus is on making sure they're here every day, they're learning, they're engaged, and yes, we want to move them toward proficiency. Don't give an accurate depiction of how good kids are doing because they're working hard, teachers are working hard, and we are striving toward those goals, but we're also making sure that there's multiple ways of determining how talented kids are, and it's not always equated to a standardized test.
And I was gonna point out, I think what Nate or maybe Ty said, really, students are proficient by third grade, they excel throughout their, K-12 career, and that's, we're really concentrating on the second and third grade. We, in fact, I think we were going to hire, was it up to 18, or 12 to 18 teachers, to do smaller class size. We did do smaller class size at, was it DE in Holbrook?
We have one at Taubeda, DE, and maybe West.
Yeah, part of the issue is we can't hire teachers. So we have the funding and targeted funding to provide those supports, but, right now, if we could hire 12 to 18 teachers, put in those classes, would be able to provide better supports. Our sports come after school programs, we're looking at a before school program to start combining with the breakfast. But MDE is, their data shows that it's best during school tutoring. So, but that becomes an issue too, because you still have to get staff to provide those. If we do before or after school, we have challenges. I think the data provides us with the information where we need to provide the sports, and then also, like I said, to get students up to 4 is vital.
Thank you.
So I have a question about this as well. So you have 3 different cohorts here. You have the 8th. Do you expect that the 8th graders maintain that 43% when they move on to the next one, or do you find that it drops?
So in an ideal situation, no. In an ideal situation, our interventions, first and foremost, tier 1 instruction in the classroom, coupled with supports that we provide, as Jim referenced, after school, summer school. Those interventions are designed to interrupt what is likely to happen. So whenever you have like a standardized assessment like an SAT or ACT, as Nate referenced, those target scores are a predictor of how kids are going to continue to grow if they stay at the same rate.
Right.
Right. So if things stay the way they are, they're projected to maintain that same level. But as we utilize Title I funding and different supports, our intent is to disrupt that so that you can see a greater increase.
Well, but I'm saying, was the 10th grade group at 20% when they were in 9th? Do you know what I'm saying?
This
Are you finding that?
This tends to trend, if you go by cohort, this tends to be a repeating trend.
Okay.
So we do find that. I think one last is data in general are just numbers, right? Without a lot of data is what starts to build a narrative. And one thing you would recognize while we're showing you this data because it's what the state measures. Just one area that we know as a district we need to hone in on more is like absenteeism, which we have several programs that we're really starting to hone in to target absenteeism. Students can't be proficient if they're not here. It's not that they don't know it necessarily, they're not here to show it. So anything from that to any kind of behavior to any kind of, there's a lot of issues that could happen or challenges that a student could face. So we look at a large subset of data. We don't just look at one data point. It's not just I-ready or M-step when making a lot of these decisions. And very happy to come back another time and sort of give you guys a full data story if you ever are interested in such.
Well, they're going to be interested in the spring.
Sounds like you'll be interested in the spring.
Yes.
All right.
Sorry, I know we went off on like a tangent.
No, that's what we're here for. Good question. Yeah. I think we briefly looked at SAT. And so I'll sort of go through this a little faster. The exact same picture, just
now we're looking at math. So here's our PSAT, and there's our SAT. A lot of people get a little bit more shocked when they see math, but there's, again, several factors, one of which is if you're having trouble reading, when you have math problems that, especially the older you get, they become word problems, it's very difficult to do. It's not the math necessarily that they may have challenge with. One extra point I'd just like to point out in public, because this is a grouped section, and a lot of people, because we are like to sort of lean on the suggestion that it's because we have a large multilingual population that our scores aren't performing, but we do have data sets where we sort of parse that data out. And while non-ML performs slightly better, it trends pretty much the same. Our best performing subgroup of students is actually our former English learners. Students who have gone through the process, exited the process, they outperform every other subgroup in the district. So just for clarity, this isn't a like. Here's our science. Again, science only gets state tested in 5th grade, 8th grade, and 11th grade. And boom. Am I going back? Science. There we go. ESSA requires that all Title I schools and families work together. That involves a large collaboration set, and this is why they require that 1% set aside for parent and family engagement. I'd like to note we historically always spend beyond the 1% minimum for parent and family engagement. If you've been invited to, or if you've gone to any of the building parent Title I nights, which typically happen in October, they're provided the parent and family engagement plan, the parent and school compact, and then the district and parent involvement policy, which is your board policy, parents receive, and as part of that transparency reporting. We revisit that every year. We have a parent engagement team, which is led by currently our ML department, who works with the parents, works with the community to help come up with some of these parent compacts and family engagement plans. And then parent and family engagement plan, again, this sort of repeats sort of what I just said. They review that during the October Title I nights. We look and hope that parents are very active in building these, because it is the collaboration, right, between schools and parents that is truly the key to student success, especially when parents are the primary educator. The school is there to enforce that education, or reinforce that education. So these are some points on how parents can be involved in that, which is, convening at the annual meeting to get informed about the annual Title I program requirements, and family engagement activities and training. We offer plenty of activities and trainings at flexible times to maximize participation. This would be things like the pancakes with principals, or the coffee with principals, or donuts with principals, a lot of things with principals that we offer. We assist families in understanding academic content standards, assessments, and how to mentor. Those are some of those nights. We'll have like reading nights, math game nights, things like that. And we provide materials and training to help parents work with their children to improve their achievement. And that could be anything from providing like books that they can take home, read at home, just have educational. I know our pupil accounting, last year we provided like little calendars, which help keep you informed, but also help students, right, with their dates and days. Parents have a right to know. It is all parents' right to know, to be involved, and request regular meetings to express their opinions and concerns, provide information on their child's level of achievement on state assessments in reading, language arts, writing, mathematics, and science. They can request and receive information on the qualifications of their child's teacher, and they can be informed if their child is taught by a non-certified teacher for 4 or more consecutive weeks. Parent involvement is absolutely key to your success, as I was hinting to before. Parents are the child's first teacher, and we're here to just sort of reinforce that learning. Parents have a lot of sway over their students, whether they recognize it or not. They know their child best when it comes to sharing information about their child's interests and abilities with the teachers. Asking to see MSTEP results as well as progress result reports, and have them explained if needed for the parents. Discuss the results of the state and district assessments with the children's teachers so they can understand how to help their children at home and be knowledgeable of grade level expectations. Some schools have like data teams where it's like the principal and some of the interventionists and the teachers. We really like to include students and parents as part of that data team to understand it, own it. It's not just students taking a test. It's, you know, what do these numbers mean and represent? That is all. Thank you for your time. Most of that documentation is available on the website, so please review them. And if you think your school's not on the right track with the documents, please take a survey and that says so. And that survey will probably be available on the website. I don't have a link for it here. So thank you, unless you have any other questions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right,
See
thank
you
you.
in the spring.
See you in the spring.
Appreciate it. All right, we have some left on acknowledgements.
That was a 31A.
31 AA lawsuit.
Oh, 31 AA lawsuit update.
Yeah,
Jen.
just, we
We're not
talked
gonna
about
ask those
this
are the
at
presentations
the
right
last board meeting. At that time, we had, the district had an opt-in of December 4th deadline.
Yep.
And there was supposed to be a court hearing before that time, they didn't have it. That was moved to, actually, the court started yesterday in state and federal. It's supposed to be a decision by the 19th. What the state allowed us to do is, because the court case was moved, we had until December 4th at 11:59 PM to opt in, which I opted in. And then depending on the court case, we can opt out up until December 30th at 11:59 PM. So we should have a decision by, that's this Friday, I believe. Yeah, 19th, right? Yeah. Okay. And then we'll have superintendents, we'll get together, we'll hear from the attorney, then I will get back to you and tell you if the court case went favorable. And we'll decide what to do from there. Okay. The last thing is Dickinson West Elementary acknowledgement. Unfortunately, Principal Banks couldn't be here tonight. Dickinson West was in CSI, which is comprehensive support and intervention, or I'm sorry, improvement, where the state comes in, you have to have a plan to improve your performance. You're in there for 3 years. They were recently exited from that, which is great news. One of 29 schools throughout the state. So.
All right, we move on to consent agenda. Resolution number 2, approve the consent agenda. Can I have a motion? I heard Mr. O'Bey, second by Ms. Vollenack. Resolved that the Board of Education approves the following items under the consent agenda, items A through N. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, 6 ayes, 1 absent, motion carries. All right, before we go to training, we will have the audience participation done first, and then we'll go back to the training session. So this portion of the agenda is for citizens to address any questions or comments to the board. The board will listen, take comments and questions under advisement, and not respond at this time. Presiding officer will refer questions to the superintendent for research and response. Can we get the first one?
Lee Mohammed agrees.
All right, come on up, Lee.
Good evening. For the record, my name is Laith Muhammad, and I'm a sophomore at Hamtramck Academy. Though I may have already told you that in the past, what I didn't mention was that I'm an athlete, a musician, and a social person. As busy as I keep myself, I'm still struggling to make ends meet and pass all of my classes with flying colors. And this doesn't just go for me. I find myself here with my peers once again to stand up against the administration at HHS. We as a student body feel that admin is not taking our concerns into our consideration and are not in the student's best concern. Last week, I had the chance to speak with the superintendent and was devastated to find out that despite all of the student voices, the counter that our admin gave us was giving teachers more flexibility. However, there were many faults that come with this. Many teachers who I know do not have the time and the patience to choose whether a homework assignment is worth 70%, or if something as simple as a do now is worth the same as a unit test. We're all humans, so there will be instances where my peers or I will be absent, and we have no idea if a certain assignment is worth that big margin. Along with this, I shouldn't have to focus on certain assignments over others because of the 70% chunk that no one finds beneficial. We as a student body demand that tests be lowered to 40% of our overall grade. I, as much as yourselves, want to make Hamtramck be remembered and known for having bright students who go off in the real world and do big things. This grading scale is not in the best interest of the students, it is in the interest of the HHS admin, and it's tearing down students' mental health and morale. We are not asking for an easier grading scale, we are asking for a more fair one. In the wise words of Margaret Chase Smith, the right to criticize, the right to hold unpopular beliefs, the right to protest, the right of independent thought. These rights should never be abused, but they should never be denied.
Thank you, Lee. Next.
Marissa Shaw. Maria, sorry.
Hello, my name is Maria Shaw. I'm a current senior at Hamtramck High School. I actually did not write a script because I wanted to look at everybody while I spoke. I actually, 5 days ago, I made a petition about this grading scale that we have because I did want to hear what the students were saying and what everybody, and what all the students' opinion was on the grading scale system. So I do have a few notes that I want to say before I start talking about the petition. Okay, so the issue is about the 70% tests and quizzes and the 30% of assignments. Now, to establish my credibility, I am senior class president, I have a really high GPA, and I do a lot of extracurriculars, and I work with nonprofits. So I'm not speaking as like, oh, I'm so lazy, I can't do my work. No, I'm very hardworking, and this affected me a lot, but not as much as I know other students. So the shift in the grading scale, it reflects on like how well you do on your test rather than what have you learned. Because, for example, I had an English test, okay, and I had a B in this class, and I forgot to write my conclusion because this was a timed essay, and because I forgot to write my conclusion, it made my grade into, it really did hinder my grade. That conclusion, I redid it, and it took 10 minutes to write. But to put in perspective, all because I forgot to write my conclusion on a paragraph, my grade went down. And I made this petition because I really wanted to showcase this was not just a few people that were experiencing this issue. This was a large majority. Yeah. So I'm going to read a few. I do have. This is not all of it. Actually, there was 89 signatures and there was 112 testimonies from students. So this is less than half. These two are the same. So I'll read a few. Yes, this grading system has dropped my grade, even when I understood the material and did all of my classwork. One test can ruin my whole marking period, and it feels unfair because it does not show the effort I put in every day. It also makes me more stressed, and sometimes I feel discouraged when I try my best. student and HHS. I have several experiences, but I'll just share one. As someone who isn't particularly a good test taker, I knew that this grading scale was going to severely impact me from the beginning of the year. I often find myself extremely nervous and unable to focus during tests because of the pressures built up around them. And it only has gotten worse because of the fact that their weights has significantly increased. I put lots of effort into all my work, but when I do badly on tests, they completely drop my grade and leave me anxious for weeks because I know that getting several 100s on regular assignments won't save my grade. I have set high standards for myself. I know a lot of people would care if they got a B, but my goal throughout high school has been to keep my grades up and get through it smoothly. This year, as someone taking 4 AP classes, I knew it was going to be challenging, but I knew that I had to study and be prepared, so I studied. Recently, I performed poorly on an essay for my English class, and I was very scared because I knew it was going to drop my grade. But I didn't expect it to drop 2 letters in a snap. The erratic change in my grade leaves me
30 seconds.
Wait, what?
30 seconds.
Left?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Well, I will leave these. These are the same copies. Who would like to take them? I have a solution proposed. So instead of the 70-30, we would have a 65 and 35. I know that's the highest percentage at Yale because my friend, I asked her what that was at Yale because she attends there, and I asked a lot of other people how their percentage at their school, and 65, 35 seemed like a reoccurring number that I would see, and I know that would also help, and also having laptops at our school library because there's no laptop cart there, and I feel like having that would increase students' performance in school because I know there's after school tutoring and sometimes there's students at lunchtime doing their work, and I feel like having a laptop cart would help them in their assignments.
Alright, thank you. Next up.
Mohammed, what's the last name?
Hey, I'm Mohammed. I'm a sophomore at Hamtramck High School. The main reason that I'm here today is to talk about the grading system that we have in place. As my peer had mentioned at the last school board meeting on the 17th of November, the grading system that we have in place is really affecting a lot of students. As you might know, test scores are 70% of our grade. So the work that we do, like homeworks, assignments, classwork, projects, it really doesn't matter because test scores are more important. The students who show up to school every day, work hard, and do their assignments, and for some reason they don't end up getting an A on the test, it drops their grade from an A plus to a C minus or even less. It really sucks just because I have experienced it and a few of my other friends have experienced it too. And the student who does not show up to school, does not do his assignments or anything, ends up getting an A on the test. So he ends up passing the class. It's really unfair and not really good thing just because the students who put in the effort to do their assignments and not getting the grade they truly deserve. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Muaz Abdullah.
Assalamu alaikum, good evening.
Islam.
My name is Mohammed Abdullah and I'm proud to be a 9th grade student at Hamtramck High School. I want to thank you for giving me a chance to speak tonight because what I'm about to say comes from me and from many other students who feel the same way, but may not get the opportunity to speak. I'm here today to talk about our grading policy. Right now, our grades are based on 70% tests, 20 classwork, and 10 participation. And honestly, many of us feel the system is not fair. It doesn't fully show what we learn, how hard we work, and how much we improve over time. Our tests can decide almost a student's entire grade. Even if a student does all their assignments, participates every day, and tries their hardest, one bad test can drop their grade by a whole letter. That's discouraging. It makes students feel like no matter how hard they work, One mistake wipes it all out. And that's especially for hard working students with test anxiety or other challenges. Learning doesn't happen in one moment. It happens every day in classwork, discussions, participating, and even mistakes. We're not asking to make school easier. We're asking for fairness. A system like 50% test, 30 classwork, and 20 participation would still hold students accountable for tests, but would also recognize daily effort, improvement, and participation. Classwork shows that we are participating and learning step by step. Participation shows that we are engaged, asking questions, and building confidence. These things should matter more than 10%. Right now, the grading system can discourage students and make us anxious, stressed, and sometimes even giving up. Even students who normally feel the pressure to be perfect every time. That's not motivating. A more balanced system would give students a real chance to succeed, and it would encourage them to keep trying even if they had a rough day. Teachers will benefit too, and parents. They see our growth and effort and improvement every day. A balanced grading system would let them reward students more accurately, instead of being almost everything on one test score. Hamtramck High School teaches us to work hard, be responsible, and never give up. But the current grading policy doesn't match those values. It punishes one mistake more than it awards months of effort. It focuses on one single moment instead of the whole marking period. That's why we're asking for a change. A grading system like 50% test, 30 classwork, and 20 participation would make our school fairer and more supportive and more encouraging. It would motivate students reward effort, and make sure our hard work truly matters. It would help students feel seen, supported, and have us succeeding. Thank you for your time, your leadership, and for your listening to students like me. It really means a lot to know that our voices are being heard. Thank you.
Thank you.
Tony Coral? Good evening. I want to start by stating that I am incredibly proud of these students sitting behind me for what they did last month and what they're doing tonight. They've come to speak out about issues at Hamtramck High School. I want to let you know that I have heard about both of these issues that these students are addressing. Some members of the Hamtramck High School staff have spoken to me even before last month about these issues. But they tell me to hold off sharing these concerns because they're concerned about retaliation from their principal. So I sat on the information. But thankfully, the kids came and spoke up for themselves. In October, I sat here before you presenting information about a climate and culture survey that we conducted in September and August. To say that the numbers were concerning is an understatement. I stated at that time that one thing you, the board, and the district administration could do immediately was to loudly denounce retaliation by administrators against staff who expressed concerns or filed grievances. The response to this request was deafening silence with a clear message of indifference. If you actually want to better serve the students of Hamtramck, then district leadership at all levels must ensure that the staff is both physically and psychologically safe. If that is not happening, people cannot give their best. That's just how the human brain operates. So I will ask one more time, will you clearly state and loudly proclaim with all of your chest that there is no room for retaliation in Hamtramck Public Schools? Madeline Porter.
Good evening. Hi. My name, who's right here, is Madeline Porter, and I am here representing the concerned women of Hamtramck, and we are concerned about so many things. I picked up the torch from Mrs. Myrick, Yvonne Myrick, who was the president of the school board for so many years, who believed, and because of that and our collaboration with the school district, Mr. Nichai started the collaboration of the Martin Luther King Day celebration in conjunction with the school district, which has been wonderful. And looking at and just assessing Title I and student achievement and assessment, Mrs. Myrick and I am an artist, and my passion is the arts, and I do believe that the arts empowers and helps to build character, and those scores that you see are totally wiped out when you see the work that the students have done through the arts. They may draw something that says so much abstractly. They may write something, the essays that these students have come up with, and I mean from every culture, every religion, every demographic. So these students are we initiated the Hamtramck Got Talent for the school district students because we believe, when I say we, the concerned women and Mrs. Myrick wholeheartedly believe that the arts will help build not only character, but personality, will help raise some of those test scores because you can take that reading level and they can connect, can understand however visually, however they need to do it through the arts, through a script, through a character, to see it done, actually lived, and then to see the word and put them together really does a connection. When I worked at Greenfield Village and I had students come and saw me do a reenactment of enslavement and the history of this country, and one of the students from Holbrook ran because I was teaching summer school. She ran up and grabbed me. She couldn't speak English well. She's about 5, 6, because she came with her brother. And she said, her brother said she wants to know when the master lets you go home so you can teach. And so that to me reminded me of the strength and the power of the arts and how it brings history to life. And to take it out of the schools to me is just devastating because the students learn so much, even building a set through design, through building things. So I just want to incorporate, I know I'm going all over the place because I get so excited when I think of the arts and I think of the program and how important it is that we continue to collaborate on the Martin Luther King Day celebration. And our theme this year is faith, courage, and the dream. And so we want to, I really would love to see the children, and we want to incorporate more than just dancing and singing, but the essays, but robotics, and to see the creativity and a business plan. Somebody that's kid to say, I want to open up and come to the front and say, this is my business plan, and give it up. Or say, I designed, Joseph Campo in the year 2046, and they have this whole layout. And so those are the kind of things that I want to encourage and to keep building with the concerned women and in collaboration with the school district. And I hope to present, moving on down the line, some programming that will incorporate the arts and building character and empowering and the overview of the assessment to build it and to build our students to a level of achievement that's astounding and take that red level down and bring that yellow level up to the blue and the green. And that's our goal. So I hope to see each and every one of you at that. We want you at a table. And of course on the dais, the president, we would love to see you guys sitting at the dais. So thank you. And I can't express enough the importance of the arts in the school district. And that 70% grading, it needs to just be a little, I don't know, maybe a little more balanced to me. I just feel that.
Thank you, Ms. Porter.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I have a flyer here, and I'm sure each of you will get that in your inbox.
Yes, Jim's already shared with us.
Sure.
Thank you. Appreciate it. All right, in order to have a brief discussion with our students, I'm gonna need a motion in a second to take a 5-minute recess, please. So can I get a motion?
Motion.
Second.
All right, so motion by Mr. Obey, second by Ms. Watson. I move to take a 5-minute recess. All in favor? Any opposed? All right, 6 ayes, 1 absent, motion carries.
So we can have
Alright, resuming back to open session at 7:32.
Yeah, just next to your name somewhere in there.
Right now, we will start our training with Scott Morrell for our MASD superintendent evaluation.
Thank you, sir.
We each need to sign a
I'm
sheet.
passing out the sign-in sheet. Check your email and your phone number and sign it. After on this type class, you want to sign it because it's a requirement. So we can get it recorded in the state in case you ever have a question. Mr. Superintendent, you need to sign it too.
You're not using the.
You get a free-
If there is any update on the phones or,
Just check your email and your phone.
okay, scratch it if it's wrong.
If it's wrong, just fix it, yeah. That way they can update it at the office.
I changed
I don't know if they need it yet. I'm just prepping it.
That way they can change,
Okay.
they can fix it at the office for you. So I know some of you been, how many have been through this training already? Been certified on the training, the shop? I think it's Ms. Hall?
I think everybody's been there except for me and,
All right. This is the required training. The state now requires part of the 24-25 update. It's now required. Before, you could take training once and you were good. Now you have to take it every 3 years, which is a big change, in the system that we had before. Before you were, once you were trained, but now with the new laws, that's not the case. So we're not going through this whole packet, just so you know. It would be nice to you. Really what I wanna do is make sure we get the critical components, the law requirements, and prep you for, Mr. Larson's, superintendent evaluation that's coming up next month. So we wanna make sure we talk about what's gonna happen in the next few weeks so that you're prepared to do that, okay? So if you look at the PowerPoint, do we get a copy of it? Page 2, the top slide on page 2. Well, actually, the last slide on page 2. Board as a whole is required to do this. It's not an individual. Years ago, we used to do an individual evaluation where each did a score one.
And then bring it back.
Yep. Now it's, you don't score it ahead of time. When you come in that night, we're gonna have a discussion and we're working towards consensus. So that we only have one score.
Last year is the new model?
Huh?
Last year.
Last year was the new tool, the updated tool, which took off the highly effective. And if you look at it, what we did at MASP is we literally locked off the highly effective. We didn't change the effective count, we didn't try to mash them together. We said that if effective was effective before, it should still be effective.
I guess, just go ahead and
We
give it
just
to them.
had that fourth level.
Let's control it.
The state wanted us to have, so we pushed it out there. But we didn't try to, everybody's like, oh, you can mash it up? No, we didn't, because that wouldn't be fair at all. After we said this is, the requirement, this is what we say is effective, so.
The problem is this one.
We've changed that. We only have one person to evaluate, this board, is our superintendent. Everybody else gets.
I don't know if they need this, cause they have their own papers. Yeah.
Superintendent's direction.
We'll find out. It might take a
So on
while.
the next page, we have to evaluate superintendent on an annual basis. And our office will say that if you take any 12 months, there's gotta be an evaluation somewhere in that 12-month window. The law doesn't say it's gotta be a school year, a calendar year, a contract year. It just says superintendent has to be evaluated on an annual basis. And it doesn't matter what title they have, interim, temporary, seat filler, brand new superintendents, you're there more than 60 days, you have to be evaluated. And that's a big culture shock for a lot, because we used to be able to kind of slide those new superintendents through, and we really can't anymore. The tools, you have to, a couple other things is, there's only 3 effective developing and needing support. So 1, 2, 3. Obviously, effective is where we want to get to. I'm on page 3.
You're on page 3?
It says the law. There you go.
There you go.
Um,
Sweet. We'll do-
And then the last thing is you have locally decided what tools you're gonna use, and it really comes out of what are you using for your teachers. Whatever tools you're using to evaluate your teachers is the same tools we evaluate our superintendent on. So it starts in the classroom, works its way up. And so we don't have to go find artificial horizons and say this is what we want. It's already built in. The MyKIP builds a lot of that in. The progress towards district goals is the MyKIP goals. Unless you have a strategic plan, then it's both. So it's built in. So for us, it's a lot easier because we're not having to try to come up with these guidelines and rules that they're already built for us. And it really starts with the classroom teacher where it should. Who knows the kids better than the classroom teacher and what they need to get growth? And then it builds up. So the classroom teacher has the classroom, administrator has the building, and Mr. Larson has the whole district. And that's what you're looking. So you're looking at really two growth scores. What's our math growth score? What's our ELA growth score? And then we combine them. If they meet our targets, we're effective. If you're not, you're gonna fall less than effective, and that's gonna struggle. Not as bad as it used to be, but it's still gonna struggle to get to effective. Before, if you didn't get effective growth, when it was 40%, you couldn't be effective. Just mathematically, because you can't say he's 100% on the domains, but we didn't get growth. It's like, wait a minute, they're opposites. If you're doing such a great job, we should see the growth. If we're not seeing the growth, then you can't be saying that they're doing everything at a high functioning level. Okay? Measurable, you can use measurable tools, so you can use data sets, you can use pre and post testing. Again, there's a lot more availability to us. iWrite and PSIT, SIT that they're already taking. You can utilize all those tests. Again, it's not just MSTEP. What they're saying is we just want a multiple tests. We want more than one test. So if a kid has a bad day, we don't go back and say he didn't make growth. Because he may have a bad day that day, but the next test they take, maybe, instead of iWrite, they're doing lesson plans, goals, master goals. And so they pass that with flying colors. Then we're combining the two to say this student is making our growth. So they don't want you to put it all in one egg basket like we used to with MSTEP. MSTEP was all or nothing, pass or fail, and if kid was in your building that day, they got scored. And it was not really fair for kids because they may not be prepared. Now it's built on each individual student and what they're ready for. So if you use iWrite and do it 3 times a year, if they're not here in the fall, they don't have a baseline. Their baseline becomes the middle test. So now you start there, so you've got the whole fall to work with that student to find out where they're at and what they need. Unlike MSTEP, if they have the MSTEP, they have to take it. And it scores against you as your district. It counts in your district scores. Well, now with growth, if you don't have a starting test, that middle score is now the baseline. And now you go to the middle score to the next score. It's 2 points in time. It's not a full year, and it's for each individual student, which is a big change for us. Okay, student growth is huge. A couple of the requirements, you have to have what we call rater reliability training. We're going to show you what that looks like. It's quick and easy, but that's a requirement of the law now. The reason is we have to have clear, concise evaluations. We shouldn't have a discussion on did they make it or not and have 7 different scores or, people in all. You should be able to look at it, read the rubric and say, with this set of facts, this is where they live. It should be pretty cut and dry. It should, districts that do this, I'm doing it in 2 districts the next 2 nights, and I can tell you the one I'm doing in Milan will be 45 minutes to an hour because they do their work all year long. There's no surprises. They walk in, they're just checking the boxes to make sure what we said we wanted done was actually done. And so it's cut and dry. Superintendent could tell you right now within a point of where they're going to land because they've given that feedback to them on a regular basis. And that's what really, and that's what we wanna get you guys set up for next year in January, is get you set up for the 12 months, so that you really can move forward as a group and not have to, always backing the train up to get, to get everything caught up, so. If the superintendent's evaluated 3 years in a row as effective, you can go to every other year. Okay? Once they go back to a less than effective, then it kicks the evaluation back in. So you can go every other year. And so it makes it a lot nicer, so we're not, if they're effective, let's not kill each other, let's keep moving on, use our resources in a better way. But there's a new term this year called unevaluated, which is a new term for us. And unevaluated is you've worked less than 60 days in that year. You're unevaluated. If the superintendent results are vacated through an appeal process, you're unevaluated. Are there extenuating circumstances, you can be unevaluated. Right now, COVID probably would have fit under extenuating circumstances. But otherwise, they say you can't use the number of days they work. Well, they only work 63 days. They've already put the law in saying 60, so you can't use any kind of day timing. It might be other things that might happen, to cause that, and that's a local decision that you'll have to decide what they want. If the superintendent's unevaluated, the previous score they got as superintendent in your district is what they get. So if you evaluated Mr. Larson last year and he was effective, and this year it's classified as unevaluated, when you score in the rep, it's effective. And that's 2 years in a row then. He gets credit for in his 3 years for if he's unevaluated. The biggest one now is we have to make sure there's a appeals process in his contract. That if it's not there, next time you open the contract at all, it has to be put in there. And what that does is protects the superintendent who have board members who didn't have this training, evaluating them, the law says you have to have this training. Superintendents can go back and say, well, I had 3 people who weren't trained before they couldn't do anything. Go to court, it was about the only way. Now, there's an appeal process, and if they win the appeal, it just invalidates the evaluation, we don't do it again, it's unevaluated, same score as last time, if he's in the same position in the same district. If you didn't get evaluated as superintendent last year, and it's unevaluated this year, then it goes in as a no score, because you didn't work in the same position last year in the same district. But, go ahead.
In our district, we had different superintendent in short times, and we couldn't evaluate the superintendent.
Yeah.
So in these new rules, how does it work?
For,
if you don't evaluate the superintendent.
If you don't?
Yeah.
Because we didn't have, you said we had not a full year of a superintendent.
Right.
We had hiccups. And
if the superintendent served more than 60 days,
okay, so
you have to evaluate them.
Okay.
Be it one or the other, they have to be evaluated.
What happens if you don't?
You turn it into the rep, state can financially hit you. Because it gets put in with the rest of the evaluation scores in June. Even though we do ours, a lot of us do them in December, it's gotta be loaded into the rep report with all the other evaluations. It's no different if you miss half your teacher's evaluations, they're gonna come, put their hand out and say, I want some money back, because you didn't do your job. And so it's a silly thing to lose money over when we can do this, and it's a pretty straightforward process.
But this doesn't go backwards, like when you had the situation where you had several superintendents in 1 year, it doesn't go backwards.
No, it goes whenever it's
Right.
evaluation time.
Yes.
So right now is evaluation time for your district.
Right.
Whoever's sitting in that chair, if they have 60 days. Now, if you only had 30 days, then you wouldn't have to evaluate, you'd be unevaluated because you didn't make the 60-day threshold.
But if you have more than one superintendent.
Whoever's sitting in that chair at the evaluation time.
Okay.
But it wasn't like this before. Huh? It wasn't like this before.
It wasn't, it was a lot
It was confusing.
grayer,
Yeah.
right?
This seems
And now they've made it very clear. Whoever's in that seat when it's evaluation time gets
has to
evaluated.
get evaluated.
Because we
Yeah,
didn't
we
know
can't
who
opt
to
out.
call away.
Right. No,
Was it
exactly.
the first one or the second
Right.
one?
No,
So
because you
we were
can't-
confused.
And then
See,
we
if
did it,
somebody
we did
had
it
to
who was
leave,
there longer, right?
You
Yeah.
can't evaluate them. You know, I'm not an attorney, but I bet if you ask the attorneys, they'd tell you right up, you can't evaluate somebody you put on leave or chosen to go on leave.
So
that's why we
whoever's
say-
on leave continues to have the same evaluation, the same last evaluation she had,
Mhm.
correct?
If they're on leave,
Yeah.
they don't get an evaluation.
I think that's a legal question.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's where you gotta go call Brad in our office and say, hey, this is a scenario. But my understanding, and again, I'm not the attorney, is that whoever's sitting in the seat at that time gets evaluated.
So 60 days, right?
60 days. Okay? Unevaluated, so, yeah, that one, again, call Brad. Brad's a good one, a good resource, doesn't cost you anything.
I guess the
Sure.
question though is, so, if the person is unevaluated,
Mhm.
does it repeat their last
And
evaluation?
if it repeats it, if they're in the same position in the same district. So if Mr. Larson wasn't a superintendent you were superintendent last year.
I was.
Yeah, you were our interim. Yeah.
But I'm saying
No,
if
but
you
he's an
weren't.
interim, we have a permanent superintendent who's on leave.
But you just
No,
said that
he's
doesn't matter
the-
what, you just said it
He's
doesn't
got
matter
the
what the title
power,
is.
doesn't matter the title.
Yeah.
Who's
No.
doing the job of
Yeah.
superintendent is your superintendent.
Yeah.
Somebody by law has to have the powers of the superintendent. Whoever that person is. That's why I said it doesn't matter what you call them. The person you have on leave doesn't have the power right now.
Right.
So she's not the superintendent.
Right.
And so they're not, we have to, but again, these are the calls you make to your school attorneys. I would start with Brad, because that's a free call. He'll give you, a lot of chapter and verse right up front that might answer a lot of those questions. But the way it's been trained to us is whoever's sitting in that chair with the authority of a superintendent, when it's evaluation time, it's evaluated. Okay, and so again, that's, like, I just hired one in a district, last week, and they're finishing their contract, so she's starting January 1. She's gotta be evaluated next year, no matter when she starts. I think she's gonna start in June, so she'll only be there 6 months, she's gotta be evaluated. And so, it's that kind of thing. If you're there more than 60 days, they've gotta be evaluated. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I see this part here where it says if evaluation slips before effective, or if evaluator changes, the evaluation must be conducted annually.
Right,
Yeah.
if you're effective, and then and so you're on the every other year, biannual, and the year you do evaluate, they're not effective again.
I'm more
Then you go
concerned
to-
about evaluator changes. Does that mean if somebody changes on the board?
No,
Okay.
no. Because it's the board who's evaluating them, not board members.
Okay,
So it's the
Okay.
board, because you're doing it by consensus.
okay.
So it's plug and play for you guys, makes it a lot easier. That's why we don't do averaging anymore, because it's not a fair process. Because 2 or 3 people put them on, 0 at the bottom of the scale, they'll never get there because of the way the numbers work. And so that's why we don't do it that way. If the superintendent's tagged less than effective, you have to put a written improvement plan together with the superintendent. You're responsible for that to be written and to be followed and monitored if they're less than effective. Okay, that's on us as board members. Again, we talked about the contract employing it, has to have the appeal process. If it's not there and you open the contract, then it's gotta get put in there the first time the contract's open for any reason, it has to get in there. The only reason you can go into closed session is under the periodic personnel evaluation. So when you're talking about the job he's doing, you can go into close. If you're talking about the job you want him to do, that's an open. And that's the difference. So if you talk about the job he's doing, you can go into close. Now, he controls open and close.
So he decides if he wants to go into open or close. He controls that switch, so they get to choose. We can't, there's no mechanism for the board to go into, on an evaluation to go into closed session. And we highly recommend that you do not ask the superintendent to step out. Because if you do, some boards will say, we're gonna go in closed session, will you step out for a few minutes so we can talk? Oh, we get it all the time. What you're sending a clear message is, we're trying to work together to figure out a way to push her out the back door. And so the superintendent's going into their office and getting their resume, their CV fired up because, you know.
Which door you want to?
3 doors.
Yeah, exactly. Which door am I getting shoved out this way? I'm from a school that's really simple. If you can't say it to his face, it doesn't deserve to be said. This 8-member leadership team, when you're behind a closed door, if you can't be brutally honest with each other and use it as a learning tool, and he should be able to say things to you guys just the same. When we're in that room, we have to be able to do that so that we can continue to grow. It doesn't have to come out here, doesn't leave that room, but if you ask them to leave, you're basically sending a message, a red flag up, that you're probably gonna lose your superintendent at any given time, because they're gonna start looking. Okay? The rubric has to be research-based, and then slides, what would be page 27, starts with the standards, professional standards. Yeah. Everything's based on the professional standards of educational leaders, and I'll show you how it connects back to the actual instrument in a second. But every piece of the instrument ties back to these 10 standards. So it's all research-based. So that's how we get through that. If you go 2 more pages over to the one that has, looks like building blocks. 1 more.
Page 9.
Is it page 9?
Page 10.
No, page
Should
10.
say key finding use of research.
Page 10.
There you go. Page 9 is still the same as page 10. There was a couple of key findings that boards have to remember. This was done, this was like the poll of polls, when they grabbed all these things and pulled them together. Mid-continent research, this has been around forever. And they found a couple of key points. Tenure of the superintendent and the leadership team has a direct correlational reaction to student growth. Direct, proportional. So if you're changing superintendents or having those issues, it's affecting your students because it's affecting your staff. And so that's one of the findings. One of the findings is that there's 2 items that are not negotiable between you guys and the staff. One is instruction, how we're going to instruct, and one is assessment, how we assess. Curriculum, that's you guys. It's you working with them. But if you say we're going to use, that we want technology used in the classroom, and you, every time an administrator goes in, it's in the back corner gathering dust, it's not a negotiable. This is, you're doing this. This is, you know, you got teachers, we joke, but there's probably at least one teacher in your district who's still using a lesson plan book from 20 years ago. Every district has that person. That's not acceptable. They don't get to choose which curriculum and how they're delivering it. It's you guys, the state is telling us, but it's up to us to make sure it's enforced. And so those are what the research came out and told us. Okay. You have a copy of the instrument, right? The tool?
Yes.
Go ahead and pull that out for a minute.
Yes, absolutely. Want to pull them off?
You can pull them out or look at them. I'm just gonna point some things out on them.
Do I have to give this binder back?
No, this is yours.
Yes.
No, the binder.
Yes. This is the first time I've ever been handed something that I've written in.
Yeah.
That I.
No.
That I wrote in before.
It's something that
Perfect.
she's heard from me before. I always like, you guys have a binder, so as you get stuff, you can put it right in the binder, and you're not waiting for him to give you all this data. You get it all the time. So you have the instrument, so like in January, when we go next year, you put a blank instrument in there, and as you see things, you check them off. Because again, we can't remember everything. So as you see things, remember things, or hey, I haven't seen this, let me ask a question about it, it's there. So as you look at the rubric, the left-hand side, left column is the rubric. It's got, I'm looking at governance and board relations, there's A1 through A6. Couple more pages down. Right. Okay, and if you look under, let's say, policy involvement, it says professional standards for educational leaders 2 and 9. When I said there was those 12 standards, that's where they're connected. So if you wanted to go back to the PowerPoint, you could see what those standards are. One is ethics and one is business on this one. I just happen to know. It's progressive left to right. Okay. If you look at it, it's a lot cleaner because we eliminated the highly effective, and we always fought over what did it mean, and districts that struggled were more struggling on what did they want versus what they got. So you're just looking at it and saying, okay, where did they fall? Read the rubric, don't try to read more in that than that's there. It'll say listening staff for goal setting, or students for goal setting. It doesn't say listening to students drop, dead, period. It says listening for goal setting. So I got boards going, well, we didn't do a survey. Well, you don't have to. If they're getting involved with, like even students tonight, that's listening to students towards goals because the goals are what they're working towards. That's what we're trying to get. So read the rubric and follow the rubric. Okay, don't try to add to it. At the bottom, we list some possible artifacts that you can see. And if you look at it in this section, you're not going to get a binder that has all your agendas in it. You get that already. We're not going to give you the board package. You already get that. Policy book. You already get that. Heaven forbid we give you a hard copy of that thing. You die trying to get it out of here. Agendas, minutes, protocols. So as you see things all year long, you should be going into your rubric, and especially at the quarterly touch base, you'll want to go in and just put a tick mark. Don't score it. Just put a tick mark. If you saw some evidence, put a tick mark in that box so you remember that you saw it, or make yourself a note. But all the way through, each section will have artifacts that it may do. What we don't want is the superintendent and their team putting a 6-inch binder together in October that sits there, no one goes and looks at it, they've killed trees in time when we've got most of the data already all year long. It's more critical that you have the data as we go versus this big binder at the end of the year. Okay, that's why we do self-assessment, and we'll talk about it in a minute, but that's why it helps you to make sure, is there something that I may not have given the board enough information on? Now you get the opportunity before we do the assessment.
And now you do every one of these, or you do, okay?
No,
when
we get scored on every one of them.
Yes.
There's only like 35. It's a lot better than it was.
Only.
Yeah.
So much.
I got news.
No, before it was worse, I think.
Really?
No, it's about 7 to 8 questions per section.
Yes.
The old one, the one I used, had 120 questions on it.
Yeah.
I mean, we used to stay all night.
Well, we used the average, but we ask questions like superintendent dresses appropriately.
It's only
So,
A
what?
through E.
A through E, 5 domains.
Yeah, and then there's
And then
6 or
goals.
7 for each, right?
Yep. So this page, go to the next page for me. This is, if you had to write a goal, something fell down, didn't get done, and you want to make sure it gets done next year, this is the page, but you tie it back. In this case, this is section A. So right there, indicator says you'd have A1, A2, whatever the indicator is on the previous page. So it ties right back to that indicator. What's the goal? What's the evidence you're expecting in any comments from the board and superintendent? You do not need to fill this out for every section. This is really, if there's something that you really need to call out, and sometimes it's a call out where we need to do better in business. It's not that he did bad in business, but in general, we have, it gives him some cover to say, we're gonna put it in there as a call out. Cause now he can go to his team and say, look, guys, they're really watching this. This is their focus. And so he's got credibility to go back and say, this is what the board wants. They've called it out specifically in my evaluation, which means when we all talk, we're gonna have the same discussions as we go forward, okay? So you're just going through, you're scoring them, the 5 domains, 1, 2, or 3. You can go half points. So we'll let you go 1.5 or 2.5. So you may not, let's say you're not quite there for effective, but they're better than developing, you can give them a half point. Okay? But no more than that. This isn't the Olympics and you can't go, 3.2 and a 3.4 and we gotta do as we do. Okay? So you would go through and score all your domains, and then we're gonna go back to go to page 12.
This section.
Oh,
Go to instructional leadership, sorry.
okay.
What section?
Section
E. E6. No, before that. One more.
Right here.
Right there, E6, one more.
One more.
There you go, E6. That's the question that literally got changed yesterday. And what got changed is instead of, it used to say learning styles, and now it's gonna say learning needs. And that's in the research, because styles, all the research is telling us that learning styles does not benefit the student.
Still says styles.
Yours is.
Ineffective.
That's because I sent it yesterday before I got the
Okay.
email.
So
You'll
take-
have the new one next week.
So take out styles.
Styles is now being replaced as learning needs,
Okay.
diverse learning needs.
Got it.
That's the one change, and that's just the research base that we continue to do. It came back, a lot of districts and superintendents contacted us and said, hey, this doesn't really work because it's not research based anymore. And so they went to that. So that's the only change this year. E2 was a question we added the last time we evaluated this, which would have been 3 years ago. And we added that question again because it came up a lot and people asked for it. We don't review it, we don't change it every year. We want consistency. So the idea is whatever the rubric is the rubric. We try not to unless there's some really strong evidence that we need to make a modification. But otherwise, we want you to go year over year, being comfortable with it, not changing it every year. Okay, if you go to section G, it'll say other required components of the evaluation.
That's a question.
There you go.
So like, if you went back to E2, since.
Okay.
Like, well, it says like, for effective, principals are provided defined autonomy consistently with accountability, goals for learning and instruction are prioritized.
Mhm.
How would they know that?
Because you're gonna be sharing with them, and you're gonna be sharing their evaluation, not that they're being evaluated and that they've been evaluated. And because if they're on a corrective plan, then you're not gonna say that they're on a corrective plan, but our question was this, if we have somebody, if we have somebody falling below effective, are they in a correction plan? But a lot of this is you informing the board.
Okay.
Because we don't want them in the buildings, we don't want them doing no kind of research.
Right.
Some of this evaluation is by the absence of information is the information. Okay?
See, I was just envisioning us each grabbing us, getting assigned to school and then just going there.
Investigating.
Investigating.
Dig deep,
Undercover.
go dig deep. Undercover.
Good that he's supervising us, that's why.
Yes, he's gonna
He has to give us documents and shows where each area, where each.
Stuff like that.
Yeah, and then also, all
Joanne,
the
you're gonna be
information
busy.
that you gain all along the year. So,
Oh, yeah, that I noticed, yeah.
Yeah.
3-4 weeks.
So if you go to section G, student growth and assessment, and progress towards district goals. start with progress towards district goals. Does not say completion of the district goals, it says progress towards. So if you have 5 goals and each one has a couple objectives, so 5 plus 2 is 15 or whatever that number is, to be effective, you've got to have 84% of those have at least a little tick mark. And what I suggest is easy, is list them in an Excel spreadsheet, 10, 20, 30, 40, as you get them, just color them in. And then next year, color them in with a different color. So we see the progress, it's visual, you know it right away, we're there. It's progress towards. What they don't want is you to say, okay, we have 5 goals, we're gonna work goal number 1, start to finish. And then we'll go down to goal 2. What they want is us working on each goals a little bit at a time, so that things are, some are being ramped up and some are still in the discussion phase, okay? The biggest change on this rubric is in student growth. You see what it is.
Locally determined.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They used to have a rating scale there. We had the artificial rating scale there. You know, you had to be, just like it is on progress district goals, there was a scale there that says if you didn't have 84% of students meeting growth, you weren't effective. Now we're saying, no, this is, you guys gotta figure it out. Here's why. If your district is not performing well, and let's say you're at 30% growth right now, and we say to be effective, you gotta be at 75%, there's no way in God's green earth you're gonna make it this year. And so day one, you've got everybody throwing their hands up saying, we're not gonna get there, so why should we really put our efforts in? Now we're saying, no, if you come in January and say, okay, here's our growth, or from this evaluation, we're growth at 40. You guys as a group determine, and what he's talked to the staff is, we should be at 55 at the end of this year. Then 55 becomes your effective score. You set the score. Because, and we don't want you can't set it so it's really easy to make, but that way it's not set artificially up for you, or opposite, where you're right at the top, you know, you're a Farmington, one of those that, you know, are pushing the envelope at the top. And it was like anything over 90, you were good, so now we do the same thing, we just don't have to push, because we're gonna make 90 no problem. And yet, the push is to get to 100%. So it's locally decided, determined, okay? Big change for us, okay? I have the rubric in an Excel file. In fact, I think I sent it to you, didn't I? Excel, I'll send it over to you. So it's really nice, because as you plug the numbers in during the sections, it'll do all the math for you. So, because there's some funky stuff in there, it's just easier to put the score in the rating box and let it figure it out for you. So that's the instrument. Okay, the process is simple. January, you guys come together. So imagine you're doing the evaluation this month. Tonight's the evaluation. In January, you would come together with the rubric. And you say, okay, what's our growth? Our growth target was, here's where we ended last year. Where should we set it? Set the growth first, because that's why we're here.
On the day of the evaluation?
No. This is, you do the evaluation one day.
Okay.
Then a couple weeks later, you have what we call an expectations discussion. What do we want for the new year? Okay, set the growth. Then my big one is go through the 5 sections. If you have any questions, those are the ones you discuss. You don't have to discuss each one. If somebody needs a clarifier, if it says regularly, appropriately, timely, you gotta clarify those. Who's the board's? Well, you're here at all their meetings, right? So you document regularly means this, so we don't have to worry about it. And you're looking for 5 to 6 priorities out of those 35. So you're saying, well, this could be a priority. So you're just listing them for the first go round.
And are those the priorities that are in this? Then those become the priorities in this district-wide goals, is that?
No, that's, district-wide goals is the MyKIP or district, school improvement plan or strategic plan.
Oh, so this is in there.
That's something different.
Yeah, and it's in there.
So what we're saying is you go to A1 and you're going through the A section and somebody says, well, I think, you know, A3 is a problem for us, and I think it should be a focus. So you're just recording them all, not deciding yet, because you get through the 5 sections, you might have 25 high priorities. Now we whittle it down to 5. We're looking for 5 priorities in 1 or 2 Bs. Didn't quite make the cut, but, and so as we're working through the year, Bs can move up to As and As can move down to Bs, but we stay at that 5. Because you can't do everything this at a full sprint. So we gotta help focus what we need, where do we need his efforts, but, you know, if he has to decide what to do, let's help him. If we don't need to do media, say, just keep doing what you're doing, we're fine, you get effective, we don't want you to waste any more time or energy, because we're doing great there. Just keep doing what you're doing, we're good. But there might be some areas where you want them to focus on, or as a team you want to focus on. What's nice is then for the quarterly touch bases, that's the first thing you update them on, is those 5 priorities. Because now we focus on, these are what we want to know about, these are the highest, and then any other questions we may have. But that way you go into that meeting not guessing, what should we talk about? You have 5 priorities. We said those at the beginning of the year, these are our priorities. They can change at any touch base, the quarterly touch bases. Maybe it's not appropriate anymore, necessary anymore. Drop it down and bring something else up. But it's like the game, you can't put more up there, it forces one down. So you're always working on the 5, but they can change. So we can be a lot more nimble and quick to adjust things if we have to. Unlike previously, we had to wait to the evaluation and then to the next year's prep for the next year. It could happen in February, and you don't make a change next January. We gave 11 months up. Now you can do it in March, and now we gained 9 months of effort and not giving it up. And that's what we're trying to get you to think about, okay? So that would be the expectations discussion. Find the priorities, clarifying any, and setting your targets for your growth. It's not a real long meeting. It's an open, so people can see you trying to figure out what are your 5 priorities, and that's what we focus on for the year. Now, it's not the only thing, but that's the first thing, because we said these are our priorities. And so he should be able to give you a good update each time we are talking about his evaluation. It gives him something to give you information right away. The other piece of it is, do that in January, you're gonna have your first touch base in March, board meeting, 3rd Monday of the month, you're having your closed session. 2 weeks out from that, if you have a question, you send it to your board president. He gathers them and gives them to the superintendent. Week out, you send the responses back to the board. So you get a week to come up with them, and then you have them for a week before that closed session. Now you've got the priorities and anything you want question. He's not coming in that room unprepared, because we've told him what we're looking for. Now there might be a stray question or two, but we want information, so we shouldn't wait to that meeting when we're in closed session and ask or open session, either one, whatever he chooses, to ask those questions when he's not prepared to answer it. That's not fair to him, it's not fair to you guys, because now you're waiting for information or you're not getting the whole story. And so by having it that way, same with mid-year, same with the 3rd one in August, and then the final one, same. Now, the final one we do a little differently. Instead of 2 weeks out, our questions, 2 weeks out is your self-assessment. Okay? A week out is if you haven't seen something or you think something's missing in your documentation, you let your board president so he can bring that to the actual evaluation. Okay? So we have the data we need, but we're doing it in a framework that allows everybody to do their job, but not cram it in the last 12 hours before the evaluation.
So anything he needs from superintendent has to go through the president?
Usually we do it because that way they can compare and say, where did we find, you get the same question from 5 people. We missed the mark on how that report came out. So now they can collaborate and say, okay, why are so many people asking this question? Where did we go wrong? Because they're the ones that have to help ease that transition, because they're the 2-headed monster. And so that's why we send it to the board for this piece. We go through the board president so he can compile it, and that way he's only giving one list
Right.
and week out to Jim. Not, you send a question, I send a question, and he's got all these questions everywhere. It's one list, here's the question, doesn't matter who asked it, doesn't matter. Here's the list of questions that the board's asking for this touch base.
So the way this cadence goes is you set your priorities in January, you do a quarterly
Yep.
in March, and then 2 weeks later, we get any questions we have to Abdul Malik, and then he presents them to Jim, and Jim gets a week to answer them back or whatever.
No, let's. Back in your PowerPoint. It's almost to the end, that's the process. Oh, there it is. It's actually the last couple of pages of the PowerPoint. You'll see little date stickers in the corner.
Okay, all right.
So let's look at it. This is the easiest way.
Oh, I see it, okay.
Now, it doesn't mention the questions. I do that because I found that it works really well for us. A couple pages back. So if you look at it, in January, that's the planning, that's what I call the expectations discussion. Okay, you come together, you talk about what we expect. or to Joanne to get to the board of what you need to do before the meeting. Well, we know she's the boss, so of course.
Joanne?
Yeah.
We too.
But that way you'll know what I'm expecting you to bring and be prepared with that night. So let's go through the 5 domains. If there's any questions, highlight them. Anything you think might be a priority, mark them. Do not score the rubric for the actual evaluation.
Oh, okay.
Human nature says if you put a score down, you're not gonna listen to anybody else.
Gotcha.
Because you locked yourself in.
Gotcha.
We wanna come in and listen to each other and say, well, I think he was effective and here's why.
We all have to.
And then we have to come up.
We come to consensus.
You come up with one consensus.
Yes.
Most of the time, it's bada boom, we got it, we're done. If we have 3 or 4 that we have to talk a little bit about, that's pretty normal. But most of them are pretty straightforward. Did we get our information or didn't we get the information? And remember, we're gonna give a little grace because we didn't do the pre-meeting.
Right.
We didn't do the starting meeting. So this is kind of like a baseline for you guys, because you didn't do the expectations that we're gonna do in January.
Yeah.
So we're gonna have some grace when we're doing this.
So we have a mulligan.
Well, just so you know, we
So-
have 3 more days before we go on break.
Okay.
So
Like
because
I said,
there were no expectations.
I forbid you guys go on break.
Jim said there's no.
I gotta work next week. Then first week in January, when you get back.
Okay.
We'll do.
The
'Cause
meeting
again-
was the first week of January. Luckily, we moved it.
Yeah, but
Oh, yeah.
again,
Yeah, setting that.
this
through,
is
yeah,
your
setting that
mulligan to
initial
give you
meeting
the
and what's going on.
opportunity to go through the process, understand the process with the facilitator, so that you get off to next year in a really good foundation. Okay, and not spend hours and hours and hours on,
So next January is like the real one.
next December, you would do evaluation.
Right.
Well, isn't there
Next-
one in
and then-
August as well, in June, you said, or something like that?
We're
Those-
working,
no, that's
we're
the
gonna
plan.
create one in January, and we come back, we're gonna create the one in August, we're gonna be just checking in.
Oh,
that
okay.
one.
Yeah, the 3 check-ins.
And
What we're
then-
doing in January, just think about it, we're doing it in December. We just pushed it back 2 weeks.
And I don't send them myself. Oh, I do. Oh,
So
not here.
we, as a, so
You
we're
will-
nothing if we're not unified,
Yeah.
and you're our only employee.
Right.
So you're sending
you,
your
of course, are going
self-assessment to the whole
your
board
self-assessment to.
with any
all of
information
us.
you think they need.
At the
That
beginning,
way they have it,
at the beginning of January.
before the session.
Yeah.
So if you think about it, for 2026, in January, we'll set the expectations. You're gonna meet quickly in March, June, August, and do the evaluation between the 2 holidays at the end of the year. And then we turn around and we do it again the next
Got it.
year. We do it that way because new board members come on in January.
Right.
They have to be part of the solution now. They have to help set the expectations and work with the team for 12 months before we give them the opportunity to get their hands on an evaluation and take swipes at our superintendent.
Evaluation in December.
Yep.
Plan.
Luckily, there
It's
isn't
late
any
in
new
January.
ones this
So
January.
that way any new board members who come on through the election process
Yeah.
would be in the discussion of what do we want for the next 12 months versus the old way, we used to evaluate in March.
Yeah.
So we'd come on and 6 weeks later, we give you the tool. Well, a lot of people run because they don't like the superintendent and we're giving them the ability to take a 2x4 upside their head. And it's like, no, that doesn't work. So that's why we highly, in all the boards I work with, it's just an automatic, it's January to December. What's really nice is you have to do renewal, non-renewal, usually 90 days from the end of the school year per his contract. You don't have to do it in December. You got all the way to March. So you got some wiggle room to make a decision on what you're doing with his contract. If you're reopening it for finances or wording, you've got room. Before we used to do it in March, you'd have 7 days to try to work that thing in because you have to notify him 90 days before the end of the year. This gives you a lot more time to really think it through, okay? When you come back out in January, you're gonna have a motion moved to approve the superintendent evaluation. We're not giving a score. You're gonna say, we move to approve it. Once it's approved, then you'll announce what the finding is. if we do, conversely, if we give them the score and you guys, heaven forbid, don't approve it, there's gonna be a lot of questions on, well, you just said he's effective, and now you're saying we don't agree with it, so we wanna go try to do it again, and that's why we want you to approve it and then announce the score. Okay? And it's a public document. Once you approve it, it's a public document. So we highly encourage you not to put notes inside the rubric. Okay? Because again, it's public, and that just opens a can of worms we just don't need to be, again, they're gonna see your discussion. If they wanna be here, they'll see you having the discussion about what we want for the next year, what we're looking for. And so the community can see the board's functioning at a high level and doing what they're supposed to be doing. But, my rule is if they really wanna know the nut and bolts, then come run for the board. If they want all the background materials and all, come run for the board. You have the same rights as everybody else, but otherwise, no, you don't get all the inside scoop because you're not on the board. It's for you guys. My one rule for you to remember is for next year, when we have the discussion in March, if it happened in January, February, March, up to that meeting, it gets talked about in the March meeting. April, May, talked in June. You don't go to the June meeting and say, January 3rd, you did this. If you don't talk about it in that first go-round, it's gone. It never happened. We're not gonna use it as an opportunity to kind of surprise or, play whack-a-mole on somebody. If it happened in 90 days, bring it up. And if you really think it's critical, just schedule an executive closed session at the next board meeting. And you can go in. You don't have to wait till March. If something jumped off, and, hey, this didn't work for us, and I don't think I handled this well, let's go talk about it. You can do that at any meeting. You can set a closed session to go in and talk about the job you're doing. So that's why we say we want to address it and not let it, hey, we didn't like what you did with that situation, and here's why. And, so we're saying we didn't like it, so now we're evaluating you, even though we're not scoring it. That's why we can go in closed session. You can say, okay, and you can say, well, what should I have done that you think, and you have that discussion back and forth. And now it's timely, it's getting done right then, not 12 months later, when it's too late. And especially when we're talking all these, unfortunately, the threats and the active shooters and all those kind of decisions that have to be made, we need to be timely in those discussions. And so that's why we encourage you to have those. And that's my rule with the boards I work with. And I work with a lot of them. If it happened in the first month, the first quarter, and you don't bring it up, it never happened. And same with you. If you have something for the board that you weren't real keen on something they did, you got to bring it up at that first quarter, second quarter, third. That way we're having the tough discussions in closed session about what's happening. Because we have that ability. We don't want it to fester and go all year, and then you get to evaluation, and half the board's mad, and the other half is wanting to run somebody out. And, you should get to December. Like I said, I'm doing evaluations the next 2 nights. Those superintendents should know right where their score is going to be and whether they're in trouble or not, because they've had the discussions all year long. Should not be a surprise. One of them it's not going to be pretty Thursday night. We already know. And they talked to her last night and said, look, there's not sport on the sport for you right now. You've lost the board. And so she's coming in knowing full well what may happen. No surprises. But that way she can make a decision on what she wants to do with her career. A lot of times they'll say, give me an effective, and I'll leave at the end of the school year. That way she protects her career, and we get to protect the district and start looking for the next superintendent in a more timely fashion. Now, I'm not sure how it's going to play out Thursday, but it gives us some of those abilities because we've had those discussions. You shouldn't get to the end of the year and be surprised that we're not keeping you or we're, kind of thing. And so, yeah, those are the fun ones I get. Go sit in those and facilitate them, and yeah, it's gonna be a late night, it's gonna be ugly. So, okay, one thing I need to do is if you go back in the rubric, I got my right page, so you do the rate of reliability real quick. On page 14, no, on the PowerPoint, sorry, PowerPoint.
14.
It'll have, on the top one, it'll have the evidence, a big red circle. Go. Yeah, it's a while back, it's like in the middle of the pack. But, well, I just saw calibration exercise, keep going. Break it up. Go up.
No, go up, you missed it.
Go up one more.
You literally skipped it.
There's one that says calibration, there,
Stop.
right there. Oh,
No,
we missed
go
that,
back.
wasn't it there?
Right
Yeah, there you go.
There it is, calibration exercise. Okay, here's what we're gonna do. The evidence I'm gonna tell you is what you've seen this year as a board. Okay? And you're gonna look at the rubric in a second and see how it matches up. So it says, superintendent shows his attendance at the policy committee meetings, proactive regarding certain policy issues, holds meetings for adjust and new policies for law changes, approves policy approval processes thorough and timely, reviews new adjusted policies as an effective dissemination of the policies. So that's A1. Go back to your instrument real quick to A1. Tell me, look at it, pick what the score would be in a minute, I'll ask you, in A1. That's the evidence that you got.
Want me to self-assess?
Hmm?
Want me to self-assess?
Yeah.
What's the 3? We just rewrote all of our policies.
Yeah. And that's what we're trying to say. If you look at it though, what it asks for is actively involved in the development, recommendation, administration of policies. And we look at what he did. He was at the committee meetings. He followed it up. That's what we're trying to get to. Look at the next one. Yeah. Tell you what rubrics you can go to it. It's in section D. And it is rubric. Budget reporting. It'd be D as in David 2. So you can read the evidence that he shared with you on the rubric, or on the PowerPoint, and look at D2 and see where you would fall.
What page?
D2. D2 on the evaluation tool is D2.
Yeah, D2.
And it's the next page after the one we were just on.
Oh, gotcha, sorry.
So it'll say calibration exercise budget reporting.
Okay.
Anybody got an idea where you would rate them?
Rate him?
If you looked at who the superintendent is, whatever what it says you got from him, so in this case, no regular budget reporting is done, budget to actual reports are not ready, audit has issues and management concerns, unsure of status of finances when requested.
Needing support.
Huh?
Needing support.
No. And that's what, and that's how easy it should be.
Yeah.
If you read it, you should be able to go right to the rubric, and all 7 of you should land, it shouldn't be a lot of debate, because you're looking, so what the discussion is, what did we see?
Oh, easy.
And then you go to the rubric and say, did we see them? So, that's the rate of reliability piece.
Based on the
example.
Those
That's
are
why I
examples.
asked it before I said it.
So what we're trying to show you is that
based on
if you look at the evidence, don't base it on anything else, look at the evidence, it should take, and you go to the rubric, it should lead you right where it needs to go as a board.
Sorry.
Jim
Jim just felt backstab for like a second. No, it's provide an example, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he started panicking, like, I'm for it. I always joke on that example,
He was trying
that
to
was
do
the
that for himself.
superintendent doing that, forget the evaluation, fire them, but if they don't know what the money's like, get them out of here, you know, kind of thing.
I was reading it and I was like, it's a
But
different.
again, the idea is, and that's why we have to rate of reliability, is so that you understand that that's how easy it should be. That we should all come, there might be a 2.5 and the 3 might be splitting hairs, but we should all be in that same window. What we don't want to see, 3 of you saying effective, and 3 of you saying needing support, and 1, or 3 needing, 1 developing, or whatever that, you can't be all over the place. That's why you have to know what the evidence is. So sometimes you have to say, well, I saw this and I saw that. And then you can go to the rubric and say, okay, I saw this and that's where I believe he should be at. It should be pretty down and dirty. I can tell you, you'll find 2 to 3 points more than he'll find on his self-assessment. Because boards, you'll give yourself, let's say, an 88, they're gonna give you a 91. It's nature, because we want to be nice. And so every time we do it, superintendents can be so tough on themselves. Well, you know, I didn't really do this, and it's like, look at them, be like,
Yeah, no, yeah.
and that's just the way it works, so that's why don't use his self-assessment as strictly another data point. It's not like we're gonna take his and just take all the scores and be done, modify a couple. It's just another data point. Now, you'll probably agree with most of them, so it makes it quicker. So we only have to spend time on the few that question it. We're gonna start with growth, progress towards district goals, and then we circle around and do A through E. Because that's why we're here. We're here for kids. So why shouldn't we look at the growth first? Because in my world, if we don't get growth, you can't tell me he's effective all the way across the board. Because if he's effective, we should see some tangible evidence of growth. So that's why I always love when they say, well, superintendent's highly effective, but they had 30% growth. It's like, so you didn't even make midpoint. So how can you be highly effective and you don't even start to get to the midpoint? It just, so I always start with growth because it sets the tone for the whole night. Good growth, easy night. Bad growth, a little different discussion. Okay? Good?
Yeah.
Understand?
Okay, so before we adjourn, I'd like to take this time to thank all my board colleagues for a successful school year.
Well,
So, yeah, but
appreciate each and every one of you for your support and choosing me as your president. And we came a long way. We've made a lot of strides. I mean, from window replacement, door replacement, bathroom renovation, kitchen renovation. We've done a lot. And thanks to our superintendent for, working with us and having a great team here. So I do hope I get your support for next year. And one last thing, because this is our last meeting before the holidays, happy holidays and happy new year to all our students, staff, and families. Thank you.
Thank you for your service.
I appreciate you. Thank you.